call this January 19th meeting of the Escondido Historic Preservation Commission order. Stand and meet the salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioner Walker? Oh yeah, perfect. Commissioner Suarez Avila?
Present.
Commissioner, Chair Span?
Present.
Vice Chair Corral?
Present. Okay, has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from our last meeting?
I do. Motion to approve minutes?
Okay. Do I have a second?
You have a second.
Second. Okay, motion seconded. All in favor? Raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, 4 yes votes. Okay. Written communications. Do we have any written communications? None. Okay. Oral communication. Is there anybody in the audience that wants to speak about something that isn't on the agenda tonight? Okay. We're going to go on to public hearings. There are none, so we're going to move right to current business. H1, determination of significance, case number PL 230015.
Thank you, Commissioner Span, and good evening, Commissioners. My name is Ivan Flores. I'm an associate planner with the Planning Division, and I will be presenting on the project located at 856 West Grand Avenue. As stated by Commissioner Span, this is a project to determine the significance of a property that has been identified on the city's historic resource inventory. The property is located at 856 West Grand. However, the property is physically located on South Tulip Street due to the development of surrounding properties and the reconfiguration of West Grand Avenue. It's primarily surrounded by multifamily development and single-family development to the, that would be the west. The property was constructed in 1894 in the Italianate style of architecture for a Samuel Graham. Here we are looking at the south elevation of the property. It possesses typical architectural elements of the Italianate style, such as symmetrical bay windows. However, as you can see from the photos, the double hung window frames are missing. Columns with decorative features, which we are still intact and as shown here on this front elevation. The property has shiplap siding, which has deteriorated due to, I believe it's from dry rot. And here you can see, in addition to the west wing, which was noted in the historic resource inventory that was done in the 90s. However, the inventory did not note that there is an addition on the east wing also, but we are unable to verify when that addition was made. Here we see the north elevation, and we see that it has a hipped roof with asphalt shingles. You can clearly see the additions that have been made to the building. As stated earlier, the historic inventory sheet does show the addition on the west wing, which has this, what appears to be a do not trespass sign on this wooden board. And like I said, we had no information as to when the unpermitted addition was done on the east wing. The subject site is approximately 12,600 square feet and as mentioned earlier, is located at 856 West Grand Avenue. The subject site is not located within the old Escondido neighborhood district. However, it is identified on the historic resource inventory that was done by Donald A. Cotton in 1983 and was revised by Aegis in 1990 and was identified as being individually significant. Although the historic resource inventory sheet did say that it was individually significant, on March 3rd, 1992, the Historic Preservation Commission voted not to list the property on the city's local register of historic properties. Staff reviewed minutes, and the primary reason why it was not listed was due to the deterioration of character-defining features of this type of architectural style. The property was found to be potentially eligible to be listed on the register under Criterion 5 and 7. Criterion 5 has to do with the age of the building, as long as it's older than 50 years old, then it meets that criteria. And criteria 7 states that it has to be one of the few remaining examples of this type of architectural style. In addition, it needs to possess distinguishing characteristics of this type of style of architecture. Again, 1992 staff recommended that the HPC not list this property on the register due to the deterioration of those character-defining features. Since time has passed, staff has requested that the property owner, Robert Franks, who's here with us today, would submit a more detailed historical building assessment analyzing the property against the criteria for listing on the California Register of Historic Properties, the National Register of Historic Places, and the city's local register. So essentially today we are requesting that the HPC affirm the decision done by the HPC in 1992, and that is that the structure would not qualify for listing on the city's local register of historic resources. The historic building assessment that has been reviewed by staff that was provided by the applicant believes that it's supplemental to the historic resource inventory sheet that was done in the 1990s. Based off of this building assessment, we believe that the property no longer continues to exhibit character-defining features of this type of architectural style. Additionally, this property is not one of the few remaining examples that possess distinguishing characters of this type of style. If you were able to review the historic building assessment that was done by the property owner, Figure 9 does identify several properties that possess better examples of, that possess distinguishing examples of this type of architectural style. I would like to correct, though, that on that figure, Figure 9, 10 examples are provided. However, staff was able to verify after we published the staff report that only 6 of those properties on that identified in Figure 9 are actually of the Italianate style. The other properties that are mentioned are of the Queen Anne variant, Queen Anne style. So we just wanted to clarify that for the record, that there's only 6 that have been identified by the property owner that continue to exhibit this type of architectural style within the city. Based off of the analysis done by the property owner and based off of the decision done by the Historic Preservation Commission in 1992, staff recommends that this commission determine that the property located at 856 West Grand Avenue is not significant and is no longer eligible to be listed on the city's local register. That will conclude staff's presentation. We are available for any questions. And the property owner is here.
Thank you. Any questions up here of staff?
I have a few, but I'm going to wait and hear what people have to say first.
Okay. If the property owner, would you mind coming up? I think you're probably, yes.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Robert.
Hi, Robert. Give me 1 second. I meant to ask staff, do you know why the HPC deemed it not significant in 92?
Based off of the minutes, it was deemed not to be significant or to be eligible to be listed on the local register due to the deterioration of the character-defining features of this type of architectural style.
So it's basically okay, thank you. How long have you owned this property?
Since August.
Oh, since August. So it was already heading downhill?
In the early 2000s, the original owners passed away in the fire that happened in Poway, I guess. They left it to their son, who I don't know for what reason, just left it boarded up for the past 15, 20 years. So it's since just kind of deteriorated more.
Okay.
What's your intention with the property?
I was originally going to remodel it. My intention now is to just sell it. This has cost a ton of money for me to deal with, and I had no idea it would be this much of a struggle. I want to sell it to someone that I guess would either develop it for the R3 value or remodel it and maybe add an ADU. My original plan, and if I can't sell it, would be to remodel it and then maybe add an ADU because it is a big lot.
Okay.
Thank you.
I had a buyer lined up that wanted to buy it, but because of this issue, they backed out.
Understood.
So.
I was just going to
Ask if you had any developers who were looking at it. I swung by the property this morning, and it seemed might be a hard sell, so.
Yeah, I had one party that was interested, and I was really hoping they would close on it, because especially with interest rates and everything going on, I think it's going to be a struggle to sell. So I'm really, I guess for lack of a better response, terrified of what I'm going to have, how long I'm going to have to sit on it or what. But
Any other questions?
And then I was just confused because in the analysis it did state it was about Section 3303, the procedures and findings for obtaining a non-emergency demolition permit. So is that, it almost sounded like you did just want to demolish it, or you were just wanting...
So when I first spoke to Ivan, I was trying to, as quickly as possible, get some sort of confirmation that it could be demolished, because my potential buyer was still willing to hang on. They haven't responded. I said I was going to meet with you guys tonight, and it could be a while, but so that was my initial intent, was just to point out that not only is it old and tearing, but it is unsafe. I mean, there's been a huge homeless problem with it. I followed the police advice. They first said to board it up. I boarded it up. I went over there, and there was a lady with a hammer in the place. So they said unboard it so you could see what's going on. I unboarded it. Now they're back. I mean, it's just a nightmare. So.
I mean, can I address them? Is there any problem with me conversing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Most definitely.
I feel like sometimes in the past they were like, don't do that. I feel like this feels a little like Hacienda de Vega to me. Like, it's a historic house in the city of Escondido. It's outside of the historic region. It has a ton of great things, and it's against every piece of my being to tear a 100-year-old house down in the word of progress, right? To tear it down, build apartments, do whatever they're going to do on the property. Like, I want to save it, but is it savable?
Let me close this part of the hearing, then we'll have discussion up here. Does anybody else have any questions of the applicant? Thank you so much.
Have you seen some of the photos of the joists and stuff like that?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
That was kind of my point. It's like, is it worth saving?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, both wings have to be totally taken down.
Okay, yeah, got it. Thank you.
Now, does anybody in the audience wish to talk on this? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing on that. Now, discussion.
So it's one of those things, like, do you try to save something that might cost way more, and is it worth saving? Is it that significant, right? So the initial board in 92 said there weren't enough of those examples, so maybe that was a criteria that could be part of the reason to save it, but now you're saying that there are plenty of those examples, right? So is it worth $1 million or whatever it's going to cost to make this house be habitable, to save it, even though it's far outside the example? Or do we go, hey, let's save this house? Like, they tore Hacienda de Vega down. To me, that was a travesty. We shouldn't have done that. I won't get into all the reasons why, but, so that's kind of my thought. Like, I want to save it, but it probably is outside of the realm of saving. And you want to take it, you want us to affirm your decision so that his developer can do whatever they want, right?
That is correct. As the subject matter experts, we felt, bringing it to the HPC to affirm a decision that was done in 1992 under less information, you would say, right? Because they were just using the historic resource inventory sheet. Felt that it would be prudent of us to ask the HPC to affirm that decision.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments?
What process would the city undergo if we were to save or attempt to the building? Because I went there this morning, I took some pictures, and it seems like it would be kind of a big overhaul. Is there a process we would go by if that was the decision, or like any historical precedent, I suppose? Or
I think if we say that we want to protect it, or say that no, we don't agree with them, then whoever he sells it to is going to be bound to have to do that. So it's nothing we would do or the city would do. It just means his buyer would have to fix the house instead of do something else.
This is City Planner Adam Feinstein. I can give you guys a little bit of clarification on process. If the applicant or the property owner determines that, hey, regardless of the determination made here, whether it is considered significant or not, if he determines that he would like to move forward with an attempt to demolish the structure, there is a process by which he can obtain or request a non-emergency demolition permit. which would allow him to demolish that structure. That would require him to come back before this body again. There's other requirements in the zoning code to that affect this, and then your recommendation or your decision would be recommendation to City Council. So ultimately, City Council would have the authority to say yay or nay to a request to demolish this facility.
But our decision today would eliminate all that.
Potentially, yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I went by briefly yesterday, and just from looking at it, I'm like, oh, it's Italianate. But, so I was confused when it said there weren't enough features to make it,
Yeah,
I don't know, keep it as that.
allowed to speak up if, yeah.
And then I was also looking at the house that was next door at 101 South Tulip. That's on the register and looks very nice, but also have to think about the apartments that it's next to. And then so you have this huge, I had friends that lived there actually, this huge complex, and then you have one historic house, or, you know, two, with the one across the street. It's a hard decision because I was like, oh, this is a cute house. You know, there's some nice details to it still. Of course, it was fenced off, so, you know, couldn't get that close. It's kind of a hard decision, honestly, because I know how much it takes to.
Yeah. So I think if we ultimately say we don't recommend what staff said, we don't approve that, we want to consider it, then they still have the ability to go back, just like Adam said, and in my opinion, this is just my opinion, it's not anybody else, it's that City Council is probably going to approve his demolition permit based on what I've seen in the past. So it's a matter of, if we feel strongly to save it, then let's save it to the best of our ability. But if we think, after looking at the pictures, go, no, this is probably not worth saving because of the damage, then that's something that we should consider. So just throwing it out there.
Like a cost benefit sort of analysis, like the amount of damage that's, any chance you might have that, like that's been done to the house, or how much it would cost to, you know, overhaul it or anything like that? Yes.
I am a general contractor, and when I first bought it, I thought it was in better shape. It's after looking at it, the foundation is horrible. You guys are welcome to go in and see it. I wouldn't want to rehab it just because I wouldn't want to deal with the potential that it's not in good shape. The cost basis to rehab it would also depend if I had to do it historically. I mean, like with wooden windows versus vinyl that look similar. There's just huge variables. It's just, in terms of a useful function, it's got windows in the upstairs that are down at this level. So there's no window view. It's completely unsafe. There's no real escape. It's just, to me, the extent that it would need to be remodeled is why I backed out and decided to, you know, sell it. In terms of the Italianate features, I asked a registered historian about that, and she said it has Italianate features, but it doesn't have like the real regal ones that like the other ones on the registry do. So it does have some, but it doesn't have the prime characteristics, I guess.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
I have a couple things to say. First of all, it is totally irrelevant that it's not in the historic district as far as being a contributor to the neighborhood it's in. And another thought was that the style is a kind of a relative term. There are a lot of variables, and if you don't like the style it's listed, you come up with a style of your own. It's kind of a transitional Escondido farmhouse, Italianate / Queen Anne. And if you want to justify it, it does display characteristics that we don't see. And if you don't want to justify it, it doesn't, you know, and it's all relative call. I went out and spent a lot of time looking at it. First of all, next time, if you ever do this again, don't take pictures that make it look good, because when I saw the picture, I thought, that is a beautiful place, you know, well worth restoring. And I got there and it didn't look anything like the pictures. I mean, I don't see in today's construction cost climate, anybody going in there and rebuilding it. If I wanted to duplicate that house, I would take some measurements, tear it down, and rebuild it from the ground up. And I say that because I rebuilt my daughter's barn out by Citrus and Mountain View, and I wanted to save everything I could save. So I started replacing wood. Then I had a friend of mine come in, and we replaced everything in there from the ground up, piece by piece, until the last thing we did was the roof, and we left the rafters there and ran piggyback with new wood. So that's the only thing left of the original barn. That it would have been so much easier in the first place if I wanted to redo it, tear it down and start over. I don't see anybody putting the cost into rebuilding that. There's no floor. Everything's sitting in dirt. All underneath the eaves is rotten. My first question was, how long have you owned it? Because I think it's a shame that we don't take more pride in our historic inventory, that when something like this starts to deteriorate, we don't have somebody report it or go out and look at it. Or I'm constantly looking for this kind of a thing. And I honestly, in 40 plus years I've lived here, I've never seen that house, and I've driven by it probably 1,000 times. Whoever owned it before and let it deteriorate, it's just one of those things that kind of fell into a black hole if they died and it sat there and was boarded up. And ordinarily I would say that it's a great house and we need to save it, but I don't see there any possibility of rehabbing it. I'd like not to tear it down until you had to, but just having the ability to, if we determine should not be listed, that certainly would give you the ammunition to sell it. So I would have to agree with staff's recommendation.
Want to make a motion? Do you want to make a motion?
You can make it.
Motion to approve staff's recommendation.
Okay, it's seconded, motion and seconded. So all in favor of approving staff's recommendation?
Motion approved.
5 yes votes. So case number PL 230015 is approved. And I have to tell you, if you had come before the commission that I was on with a couple of these other people and a couple other people, you would be out there rebuilding that at any cost.
My intent was to rehab it because I liked the look and style, and it thought it'd be a great project. It was only till I kind of bought it without really doing my homework on it. And
Well, if it looked right now like the pictures, I'd say it would be rehabitable.
well, it was little things like there was crumbled drywall, but I didn't really assess it. And then I removed some of it and go, oh, wow, you're right. This is a dirt, beam on grade foundation. There's no concrete or stem wall or anything. So there's nothing. It was just wood on dirt. It was really disheartening.
My 1927 farmhouse was blocks of broken concrete set on top of each other with the beams laid on those.
No way. Did you have to do a massive repair, or did it?
Been there for 100 years. It's totally fine.
Cool.
Didn't move, earthquakes, nothing shifted.
That's awesome.
They knew what they were doing, apparently.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
That concludes our current business. Any oral communications? See none. Any commissioner comments?
I would just let the new commissioners know, normally this is a pretty busy commission. It's been pretty slow since you guys came aboard. So just to encourage you, this is weird for us. We've been hours deliberating over 10 different things that are on agenda. So I'm sure it's going to pick up. It's just been a little slow to begin. So just so you guys know, it's not normally nothing to do.
And I just have a few questions that are probably more just how this all works, or previous, I found that his whole presentation that, it was here, that looked really good. How does that compare to others that have been submitted?
Some things are handwritten on napkins, it seems, and some are very professional.
Yeah, I thought his looked good. Did that look really good to you, or you're like, pretty good?
Yeah, for sure.
From a technical perspective, I'd say that that's probably middle of the road compared to the stuff on a napkin. Versus some people do employ historians and historic preservation consultants to do reports for the type of thing that he was requesting. He went about it himself, and staff believed it was a quality document and was able to get on board with that. But there are historic preservation consultants who do this.
They will have boards, pictures, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. And in the past, this commission, I know city council has too, if it was imperative to build on that site, condition it with moving the house. There's no way that house is going to move anywhere. It's just going to collapse. So I have a couple things I wanted to bring up, and find my notes here. I know that this might be new to some of you, but we're looking to have a joint meeting with the Public Art Commission, and in regards in particular to, I don't know if you're familiar, if you've been around since the 70s, the old Sears building, that's where Home Depot used to be out on East Valley Park. We used to have 5 incredible murals that were commissioned by Sears, and they were installed and then they were removed. And anyway, that's coming down the pipeline. But it has a lot to do with Escondido public art and a lot to do with historic things that we need to deal with, and we need to get an understanding as far as where history takes precedence over what is considered art today. But that's coming down the pipeline, and that's going to be a real interesting, informative, and get you on track again. A couple other things, Adam. The house on 9th, 334 9th, they've been before us with plans before. It's a post-war, small house. It's been in horrible disrepair for years and years, and they came with a plan that was, remember that horrible plan that we shot down? Anyway, I went by there the other day, and they are working on it again, but it looks like they've got vinyl windows in there. Now, I've been an advocate for allowing vinyl windows in houses that aren't historic, even if they're in the historic district, but this one in particular is a contributor to the neighborhood. Now, I would have liked to seen authentic, whatever kind of windows they had in there before. I don't know if they were wood or aluminum, at least in the front of the house. I don't know if.
Wouldn't that just be a code enforcement action?
Well, I don't know if it was approved or if it was a counter approval, or are we relaxing our standards?
So I think we're getting a little bit off topic. This isn't something that's been agendized, so we can't really have this discussion in any detail. But we can,
because I want all this to go on an agenda.
We can talk about that afterwards here, and we'll figure something out.
Do you want me to tell you everything I got that I want to go on the?
Are they all specific items on specific properties?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, yeah, we'll chat on them.
And then I have a general question that was kind of brought on by a house that is being worked on in the neighborhood, but what is approved by staff and what comes to the HPC?
So there's some different stipulations based on whether something's in the old Escondido neighborhood, whether it's something that's on the register or in, on the survey, whether it's new construction, remodel, rehab, whatever. So it really would depend. Without knowing specific project, I can't tell you. And even if you told me right now, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. But we can look at that, and we can actually provide some information on what that is to you guys as well. So we can include that with our next agenda report. That
I would imagine age would be a significant part of it.
Obviously, yes. Yeah.
And I think most things that we would be interested is, I'm talking about someone, a property that is on the Mills Act. So.
Any other comments? Okay, well, seeing none then, we'll.
Sorry.
Did you have one?
I do.
Okay, well, go ahead.
After seeing that house and seeing the story that he wrote up of why it was in disrepair, I thought, how sad. Is there anything that could have been done sooner? Could we do a survey checkup of some of them to make sure they're...
Well, that's what I said. How can it get so bad? The house down on South Escondido Boulevard. Can I talk about this? It's a done deal.
Well, I mean, you could.
Well, it was bad, and it fell into disrepair for years and years and years. And it was the same situation. Nobody was going
Well,
to
real
bring it
quick,
back.
do you want to just close the meeting and then we just
Yeah,
talk?
okay, we adjourned.